usually things just roll off my tongue quite naturally. But when it came to the interviews, I don't know, like I just felt like I kind of got to the point where I was so concentrated on what I was saying that I was fluffing it up, and I was just getting all frantic and panicky, and my palms were sweating, and it was it was just, I think, because you've hyped it up for so long, because you've done the application to get into the swap course, you've got into that, which is a massive thing itself, and then to then get to the interview stage and hear back from universities, it was a massive thing. And I think my own pressure, I put a lot of pressure on myself, I think. But how did you find that, like the interviews, when you did actually have
Like
one?
get them. I think we were quite lucky that we got to do mock interviews. I think that definitely helped. I kind of so I done a few with some people in from our class, just on our own. So I went onto like the NHS website and looked for nursing interviews, and then they kind of done the same. So when we done a call, they would have different questions to me. So it was kind of good to be put on the spot as well as have questions prepared, because let's be honest, on interview day, as much as you read that Facebook group and you kind of see what you could be asked, there is always a curveball. So I mean, as much as at the time we probably were like, oh, the six C's, I'm sick of hearing about the six C's. I definitely learning the six C's, knowing like your code, they definitely do mold your answers. And I think as stressful as it is, you kind of come away from it and you think, oh, I actually do know like what I'm talking about. I think I'm okay. Like I felt quite confident after, maybe not before. My palms were very sweaty, but afterwards I felt very like, oh no, I think that was good. I definitely think we were quite lucky with our prep for it. So I wouldn't have took that for granted.
I also found, when our guidance teacher took us and told us that we were going to be making a video as part of the prep, at first I was like, I really don't want to do this. I really don't want to video myself. Like, nobody likes to see their face
No.
on a camera. Um, but yeah, I felt like that really did help. And then actually using that as a tool was really quite good, because then you could see where where you were kind of needing to touch up on things, or and being able to jump back in, because some of the, like most of the two of the interviews that I had were actually group ones,
Yeah.
and the only one that wasn't group was Sterling, which I quite like that one-on-one. I suppose it may be different next year if they have interviews inside, like actually in the campuses, but we were mostly online. So yeah, I felt like the group one and then hearing everybody else's answers, it kind of helped a little bit. It kind of like
Yeah.
helped you kind of come up with the next question, so that you weren't so flustered, or in my case, absolutely flustered
So
and
for me,
panicking.
that's
Um,
quite it's quite interesting to hear, because for me, I actually preferred the group to the solo. I Yeah, because I
really?
think so the way that Sterling done it, I think their dynamic, I get it, like for time based and they're obviously trying to get a lot through. I felt it was very impersonal. Like I didn't feel like I had enough to show me. Whereas in groups you could kind of bounce off of people. So I did feel like it was more settling. And I think as well it gets you used to that is the kind of environment nursing is. You're gonna be bouncing off your colleagues, you're going to have to speak up in groups. So I did, but I can see why people would prefer the solo, because then as well you kind of get to, it's all about you. But for me, yeah, no, I thought I would like the solo one better, but I didn't enjoy it as much.
That is
See,
quite
on the application process, how did you feel your wait was? Because I know my wait felt like an eternity.
To be honest, I tended to find that, I know that there's the Facebook page and the socials for Swap Access to Nursing, but I did mute it at that point, just because everyone was getting really frantic, and I found that it then made, like, rubbed off on me. And I knew that, like, my backup plan was to do the HNC if need be. Um, so yeah, I tried not to think about it, because the more I thought about it, the worse state I got myself into. So yeah, how did you find it?
Yeah, kind of the same. I did find the Facebook group very helpful for, everyone was kind of getting the same things at the same stage. But I do think once the applications went out and the interviews started, it did get a bit frantic. So I was kind of the same. I was like, don't check it. Just because someone got their interview through doesn't mean you're not getting yours. But I think it was a bit of a pro and a con. It did have like really good points, but I would definitely recommend to mute it when it gets to that stage if it's too much for you.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I don't know, like I think because subconsciously you're obviously, you know what's coming, and you're kind of trying to prepare yourself for, well, I was preparing myself for the worst personally, because I just thought if as long as I get into the HNC, I'll be okay. If I get into uni, it's a total bonus. But then I ended up getting into all three, and I was actually really quite
Yeah.
surprised. The three that I did apply for, I got an offer from all three, but I felt like once one came through, the other two quite quickly followed. It wasn't like you had to wait forever and a day, which was quite good.
Yeah, I actually felt the same. I think when I got my first, I think I got UWS first, and it actually relaxed me. UWS wasn't my first choice, but I felt like I've got in regardless. And then the wait didn't seem as long. So yeah, I do agree with that. But it's the build up, isn't it? You just can't help yourself.
And how did you find, like, how did you feel when you became successful? Like, how, because I know I was over the moon.
Yeah, I was. I remember I was at my mum's and I got the email and I was just like shaking. I was like, oh my God, I've gone to uni. Like, how's that happened? It was almost like I didn't believe it.
Yeah, no,
It's such a
definitely.
nice feeling though.
I was in Asda car park.
You
And
must
I
have
got
looked
the
good.
email and I was like, oh my God. No, honestly, and my partner was like, "What way are we going?" Because we weren't even in Glasgow. He's like, "What way are we going?" And I'm like, "I don't know. Like, I can't talk right now. I'm just a
I
bit
need a
busy.
minute.
Like, I need a minute. I need the time out." But yeah, no,
Um,
it was definitely an amazing feeling. And then obviously, you just feel like you just want to scream
yeah,
because it's such a brilliant course.
I think because the interview stage was so, like for me anyway, I felt so stressed because block two is quite heavy. So when the interviews and your personal statements all block two, I think getting that email after you know how you felt and how you've like struggled, I think it's just such a great feeling. Like it's just so
No,
good.
absolutely. Yeah.
See, on terms of celebrating when you got your offer, did you say, I know you love to celebrate, so you definitely did.
Well, how did you celebrate?
So I actually waited until I got my first choice, and then me and my friends obviously went out. How else would you celebrate?
For me, the celebration itself was actually phoning and telling my mum and my gran, and for my gran to be overly proud because at that point my granddad had just passed not long before. Um, so it was that because that second block itself was a bit of a blur for me. I don't really remember a lot of it with him passing in the January, but I do firmly believe I don't know where I got that strength from to do the things that I did that block. But 100% it definitely did help, and phoning my nan and just letting her know that I had got into the three unis and I had a choice and all of that. And she was just absolutely elated. She was over the moon for me. And it's just a really nice thing because I firmly believe like before I never ever deserved to actually be in a swap course or be in any college. I never even dreamed that I'd be going to university or given the chance to. So I think for me that was a massive thing, and it was just I just couldn't believe it. I just could not believe it. So yeah, I mean we did have a good drink with my friends and had a good giggle and I danced to Just Dance and things like that.
As you do.
But yeah, it was mostly for as you do, normal typical day for Gemma. But I do definitely think that yeah, it was definitely something that it was more of an internal celebration than what it was external for me, I think.
Yeah, I know you touched on HNC was your backup plan. I think that was kind of my consideration as well. Do how would you have felt if you had have gone down that route?
I don't think I would have minded. At the very, I remember there was a point in the prep for HE where they were telling us to consider HNC if university wasn't an option. But there was a part of the prep page, and I remember it said, something along the lines of, if you don't feel ready for university, it's okay to take the HNC route. And that was actually really quite important for me, because you're so set on going to university and that's the thing you want. But really, is it what you need? Do you need to go to university right now? Can you spend that other year getting a little bit extra help from the college and, almost get nurtured a little bit more? And that's, I didn't really know, because that was about the start of block two, if I remember correctly. And I thought, am I ready for university? Am I ready for that kind of commitment? Like, is that what I want? So that's why I kind of did play around with the HNC a little bit. And then I became like, I kind of got a bit of more self-confidence due to the assessments that we were doing at the time. And I thought, no, do you know what? You're going to be fine at university. You're just downplaying yourself. So yeah, no, definitely 100%. And I think having the resilience, because life's never easy, life's never up
Mhm.
or down. There's a mixture of both and it always meets back in the middle. And I think having the resilience to bounce back up when things don't go quite the way that you'd planned is a good idea. And that's why I kind of had the HNC in the back burner in my mind to be able to do that. How did you feel about it all?
Yeah, so kind of the same, and I do agree. I do think you go through your self-doubt moments where you think, could I do uni? Like that's a lot, like that's a big leap. And I mean, the college does support you like massively. You
Mm,
almost feel like, did I do that myself? But it's just how supported you feel. You just feel like you're never going to fall because they've always got you. And I think it's like quite scary then to think, oh, but what's uni going to be like? Because you've never experienced it, so you just don't know. But then again, I think you are right. I think that's where the resilience comes into play, because when we started college, we didn't know how we would feel either, but we still took the leap and done it. And a lot of us are mature students, and that's a bigger leap. I'm not saying that anyone that's a school leaver and goes on to course isn't, anything to do with developing your career is a big leap. But sometimes you think, oh, I've got responsibilities. Can I allow myself to do that? What if I fail? And especially when you're starting to do your personal statement, you start to think, have I done enough to show that I should be at uni? So I do think it's a
yeah.
massive thing to reflect on.